Hey everyone, so in this video, I'm gonna be answering a question that I got um, recently about how I approach texturing in the most recent particular personal project that I've posted online recently. So I've got a question from a person in Facebook, and he asked me about how I avoided the repetition of details in my textures. So in this video, I'm gonna be answering that particular question. So I hope that's gonna be something that will help um, others that didn't know or learning texturing inside Blender. So yeah, so basically I've listed down a few notes here of key ideas and approach in my workflow inside Blender, specifically for texturing and using photos to do the texturing and do the work itself. So first is understanding what your building or architecture needs. So it may be something story related, or your world building is about, or what your architecture is about, the time and location and the weather. So those are key important themes and you know markers that you should follow um, and explore when working in your designs, and how to find um, the right kind of image texture to use for those ideas. So you just have to figure it out and yeah, explore. And I think using references can help you a lot with that too, especially real life references of architecture and building structures, etc. Second is knowing the kind of camera shots and compositions. So um, I think you can do that during the composition sketching stage, whether you're aiming for a far or a distant, camera shot, or is it a middle or a more close-up one. So figuring that one ahead of time will really help narrow down or refine the next steps that you're going to be taking, and that includes the kinds of textures and images that you're going to be using moving forward. So yeah, figuring that out at the very early stages is very important. And for the third note that I've got here is choosing the right image texture. So once you got the two like ideas, like once you understand the architecture or your building needs, and you know the shots that you're gonna be taking or making, and the compositions itself. So once you have that figured out already, then it will help you choose the right kind of image texture that you're gonna be needing. So I'm using textures.com for the images that I'm using for my environment design. So it's a really really cool website, and it covers all, like, basically my need for architecture, like concrete, floors, walls. So you've got a lot of choices in this website that you can use and even combine. Like, you don't have like to settle for what you've got here. You can always like mix and match and combine different materials in Photoshop, and to make it even more like unique and your own too. So I think that's really really important, and I've used that recently in my recent personal work, wherein I combined like two or three um, photos from this particular website inside Photoshop, to make it like a little bit more unique. And I think it's a good idea too to make your work not too similar with other people, because this website is used a lot by a lot of concept artists too. So I think it's a smart approach if you can, make your materials a bit more unique and fresh. And yeah, okay. So in number three, in choosing the right image texture, I've got like three additional like ideas that I use in this one. So in this particular structure, like this main building in my environment, I just use like one photo. So this is the photo that I use for this particular building. So this photo that you can see here. So first is first reason why I chose this photo is the areas of details versus the areas of rest. So I think for this photo to have that balance of areas of details and areas of rest, and what I mean by that is that I'm gonna so like for this particular part of the image, like you can see a lot of details here. Like you can see this, stains and leaking feature here. So this can be used as an area of detail, and on this side it's very like empty. So this is the area of rest. So having this balance between areas of details and rest, this is more flexible to use, because once you stretch out or scale this particular image to tile it on a much bigger surface, that will make your wall more not too similar, or there's less repetition itself. So I think having that areas of rest against the areas of detail is very important in choosing the kind of photo that you're gonna be using in your structure. So, and that area of details versus area of rest is also like very connected to tileability and modularity. So you can always like combine this areas of details and areas of rest on the different parts of your environment, like because you can always like move this like for example, you can move certain parts of the image using the UV editor. So I'm gonna be showing it later. But yeah, having this balance between areas of rest and areas of details will make it easier for you to tile your image and use it in different parts of your model or your building. So also, one of the reasons why I chose this image is, let me delete this first. One of the reasons that I use this particular image is for scale purposes. So if you notice in this picture, you can see these lines, right? Like these vertical lines and these small horizontal lines, like these ones, this big one here, this one. So you can see a lot of like smaller horizontal lines. So when you zoom out this image, these lines, these small horizontal lines against these tall and longer vertical lines will like trick your eyes and make this texture like big, or it mimics scale in some ways. So if you notice here, it's very like successful in my opinion in mimicking scale because of these small details. Like this is why I chose this particular image, because before I I chose this as the final image. I've tried a lot of um, other photos, and some of the photos are they have like similar scale, or like they have bigger tile, and it wasn't as successful as this one when it comes to scale. So especially when knowing that I'm gonna be having a lot of distant shots in my final pieces. So yeah, I think going with this one was the right move, in my opinion. So yeah, so details, scale cues. So, and if you notice here also, there are some like, oh wait, let me delete these again. So if you notice here also, you can see that although the this like leaking features here are the same length, you can actually like find more images, or you can edit these images to break this uniformity of the length of this of these leak features or stains. So you can further modify it, but in my case, I just stick with it, because I'm having like a lot of distant camera shots. So but yeah, if you notice here, there is like differences too in the in variety in the distance between these elements. So having them having these features to have like different length of how should I say, like distance in between them, and this one is a lot longer and this one is empty. So having those kinds of features in your image will make it easier for you to avoid repetition, if that makes sense. If yeah, so I think these are just like small features that you need to find in the images that you're gonna be using, to avoid repetition and to make it easier for you to avoid repetition. So sometimes it's not gonna be like 100%, that can be avoided. There will be cases that there's gonna be some repetition, but I think the key here is to avoid it as much as you can, and not to be too easily recognizable inside your scene. So if you notice here, these are, yeah, like you can see a lot of repetition too, but then like having those areas of rest help a little bit, just to break it a little bit, and to pair it with the next one, like using the power of UV editor inside Blender. So let's jump into Blender. So I think it's this is one of the most efficient way to avoid repetition inside Blender, is just to use this feature inside Blender. So all you have to do is just like just select this, like for let's do this one for example. So, because I've div- I've added more cuts on this one, so let's just use this one for example. So what you can do is you can just like move this, this this face in particular, and with that you will be able to like control the repetition of elements in your scene. Like you can unwrap this one and you can move this a little bit more, like you can do that. And you can like change this one for example to make it not too similar with this face. So there's a lot of you know there's a lot of trickery that you can do using the UV editor. um, to avoid repetition of elements, and you don't have like to make like really really big, you know, modifications for your for the texture or for how your building or structure will work. All you have to do is just like break uniformity and like added like subtle or small changes here and there. And you, there's so many ways you can do that. You can do that inside Blender, but then at the end you're gonna be using the renders inside Photoshop anyway, so you can always do some paint overs inside Photoshop too, to further break those repetitions. So yeah, but in my case, like I did not like make any Photoshop paint over for the environments here. So like for example in this case, like these walls are using the same photo, but I've just like I just selected this face here. I just selected this face here and used the move, or I use the UV editor to move the texture. So this texture will be totally different from this one. So things like that. You don't have to like do like make changes in all your faces or your shapes. So all you have to do is just be smart in your approach. Like in this case, for example, like this pillars, they're using the same photo basically, but I just move this particular part. I just move this particular face in the UV editor, and yeah, just moving it like very small, so it does like make a big impact by removing like repetition of details. So yeah, things like that. Like just be smart and efficient with your time and the resources and the textures that you have. So, but yeah, if you notice here, so this particular details are repeating, right? They're just basically the same. These are the same elements, but you have this bigger space here that's totally different. So it breaks the repetition. So things like that. And yeah, next one is light and shadow. So this is a prime example of what I mean by light and shadow. So you can take advantage of light and shadow in partnership and in relationship with your texture. So if you notice here, there is like a cloud shadow cast in this area. Oops. So if you notice here, there's like a slight shadow cast in this area too. So, but this detail, let me use another color. So this detail is basically the same with this one, but then also this one, this is the same with this one. This face is a little bit brighter or more lit than this side of the structure. So the shadows that we got here, the shadow cast from the clouds that we got here, kind of offsets and changes the uniformity between the details of these two areas. So those are like little things that you can take advantage inside Blender when you're using the HDR eyes or and the light in partnership with your texture. So take advantage of what Blender can give you to further break repetition of details and uniformity. So this is one of the ways you can do that by using the light and shadow. Another thing is that you can use is using other objects in your scene as aid. So similar to how you can use light and shadow, you can use other objects too. Like let's find something here. Okay, this one will do. Like this one, this details like this vents, for example, that we got here. Let's use another color. So this vents, for example, that we got here. So basically, the details for these walls are the same. So to break that, repetition of details, you can use these objects or other elements inside your environment to cover those, texture details. So once you cover those texture details and you use these elements like efficiently and smartly, you can break the repetition of the details in your textures. So you can use other, assets and objects in your scene to cover those areas. So you can do that too, similar to how you use lights and shadow. So yeah, I think it's a lot more efficient too because it basically blocks and removes the repeating details in your texture. So it's a lot more efficient than light and shadow, in my opinion. So yeah, these are the things that I use and the ideas and approaches I use inside Blender, and how I use photos and how I avoid repetition of elements. And you know because avoiding the repetition of details and elements in a photo makes your work a lot better, a lot more realistic, and you know just more have more character to it, in my opinion. And yeah, just a lot better. So yeah, I hope this video covers and answers the question that I've got, and I hope this will help you in texturing your environments and models inside Blender. And yeah, see you on the next one. Thank you.